Patriots Place, brought to you by the E2G Sports Network with Thomas, Murph, Murphy, and Claire Cooper. Thank you for listening. Please do not forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Our guest today, he knows his X's and O's. He can hold sport court wherever he goes. And don't even get him started on Star Wars. Okay, folks. The snarky wonder himself, it is, of Patriots.com, Mr. Evan Lazar. Evan, long time no speak, dude. How's things?
I know, right? Like a whole 4 days or what? I don't even know. What day is it? Wednesday? Anyways, yeah. Well, let's not do a Star Wars podcast today, though. Maybe in July or something like that. When we have nothing else.
That's
to talk
There you go. There you go. Then we'll sit down. We'll get the three of us, and I'll get Fitzy in here. Fitzy's a huge Star Wars guy, but no, like you said, we'll do this. We'll do this next week, down the line in July. Hey, bud, right off the bat, a lot of people are making a lot of hay over the fact that Bill and Mac are not looking too chummy this during these OTAs. What do you have to say about that?
I don't know if Bill looks too chummy with anybody during practice. Like I don't really. The only people that I would say he's chummy with are guests. Yesterday, LeGarrette Blount and Aaron Dobson, of all people, was out at practice, and they were, talking and whatever they were talking about, who knows? But they were having a good time out at practice. When other coaches come to practice, Jim Montgomery, the Bruins coach, was at practice last week. He'll talk to those guys. But in terms of being super chummy with players or in players' ears during practice, you don't really see that too often with Bill. I think the main thing with him is that he has just an unbelievable ability to watch all 22 guys on the field at once. Like, right. I've never seen anything like it before.
I haven't seen him hug anybody on the field since Troy Brown during a
practice. I have never seen anything like it before, where he can go and correct a guy on offense, and then he can go over to the defensive backs and correct the defensive backs, and then he can go to the linebackers and correct the linebackers. And those are the times where he gets a little bit hands-on. But in terms of him going up to Mac and, hey kid, how you doing? Like that's not gonna happen.
Yeah. How's your mom? How's the girlfriend?
Right.
What ice cream shop you want to hit on the way out of here? No, I agree. And it just hit me last night. I'm sitting there watching one of the evening shows, and that seemed to be a huge deal to everybody. And I'm sitting there dumbfounded. It's like, really, you people can't come up with anything other than that? But I can, luckily. And I want to get one in off the bat. Is Malik Cunningham, is he the new Julian Edelman?
No, definitely not yet.
Right.
I think the biggest thing with me, for me, with Malik Cunningham, this is a little bit of a bit on catch-22 between me and Barth. I get a little bit hot and bothered by the Malik Cunningham conversation, because we so instantly take every single project like Malik Cunningham and turn him into Julian Edelman in our head. Like, oh, this guy's he's the next big thing. And to me, I just am a lot more focused on Tyquan Thornton, the two rookies that they drafted, Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte, and some of the other players that are hopefully going to be more involved than Malik Cunningham, quite frankly. So I don't really spend too much time in these practices watching Malik Cunningham, to be honest with you. But I do think that the one thing that you can see is that his athleticism really should allow him to give them some nice looks on scout team and do some things that the mobile quarterbacks that they're going to face, like right out of the gate with the Jalen Hurts come the regular season. But in terms of what he's going to do in himself as a receiver, it took Edelman 4 years to catch on as a receiver. So I think we're really far down the line before we can project anything like that.
There you go.
I'm sorry, Evan, I didn't warn him about your bugbear, and he obviously hasn't listened to a Clare perspective to know that that's like one of Evan's bugbears this season. Come on, Murph, get with it,
we
Murph.
Just need it. The Patriots need good enough receivers that we don't need to talk about Malik Cunningham, right? Like, exactly. They need guys like Tyquan Thornton and Kendrick Bourne and Devontae Parker and obviously Juju to be real game changers for them, so that we don't go every summer thinking, oh, we got to hit on this UDFA and hope he turns into a gem. Like, that's not what the other good teams around the league are talking about right now.
Well, I'm going to be checking out right now because I'm not allowed to talk about tight ends, and Evan just answered all of the rest of my questions that weren't tight ended. Go ahead, Claire.
That's not true.
No, it's not true.
I know. I was going to say, moving on, because you mentioned receivers. We hear that Gesicki and Hunter are like BFFs now. I think you mentioned it on PO on Tuesday. They're like going everywhere, doing everything. And I love it. It makes me tingly. I am here for all of that. But have you heard anything or seen anything, on the kind of more blocking centric tight ends that are sort of on the list in the regards of Lumpkin and Washington and Sokol and Ferksker, which I hate his surname. I'm looking to love him on the field, but his surname makes me trip over all the time. So I really we need a nickname for him so I don't have to fumble over his surname all the time. But have you seen anything of these of the blocking guys? Because we know that that's really not necessarily what they're going to utilize with Gesicki and Hunter.
Yeah, well, they're not in pads yet, so it's kind of tough to assess it blocking and who's going to be a great blocker right about now. But I think with Lumpkin, he definitely looks the part. I mean, when he was wearing, I think he's wearing 65, if my memory serves me correctly, because they hand out those rookie numbers this time of year. Yeah, and he looks like a tackle. Like, you would think that he was an offensive tackle, and I'm looking for white 65. Like, where's Lumpkin? And then I see him, like, oh, I just glossed over him because I thought he was one of the offensive linemen. So he's really big. He's a big frame guy. You could see that just him being able to throw his weight around and sort of get in the way, I think is going to get the job done a lot of the time. And with Ferksker, he actually made a nice catch yesterday in team, a back shoulder throw from Bailey Zappi. So I think that he's got some of that ability to move around a little bit more than a guy like Lumpkin. And that's what he was playing on the outside when he made the catch yesterday. So I'm intrigued to see what they do with him. I think, look, it didn't work out with Jonnu Smith. There's a million reasons why it probably didn't work out with Jonnu Smith. But I think one of the things that the coaching staff can kind of wear in that situation is he was a very versatile player, but his role had to be very tailored. And they had to really have a plan for that type of player. And I'm not really sure if they had a great concrete plan on how exactly to tap into Jonnu Smith's versatility. So I look at a guy like Ferksker as kind of a poor man's Jonnu, and maybe they figure out a better way to use that H-back. And maybe Bill O'Brien is the right guy to bring that out of the tight end group, because I don't know if McDaniels had like a buildup that maybe we never got to see because he left for the Raiders. And then obviously we know what happened last year. So I think that there's going to be an empty role there. I think tight end 3 is up for grabs, and I do expect them to carry 3 this year. I know it last year, and I think maybe in 21 too, they might have only carried the 2 guys on there just because they were getting all the money. So they're going to play those guys until they can't stand anymore. But with Hunter Henry and Gesicki being pretty similar in some of the things that they can do. And then I would also just mention that injury history for Hunter, maybe that there's a little bit more depth there this year than what we've seen in the last couple.
Okay.
Let me just quick. But you did see, so you've seen Ferksker and Lumpkin out there. And I kind of completely understand that they wouldn't sort of be blocking at the minute, but it was more of, are those blocking guys even out there at the moment? Have you seen anything from Washington and Sokol?
No, Scotty Washington yesterday, it was a little bit limited. I think, he's someone that I'm intrigued by just because of the sheer size and his catch radius and his athleticism. I'm not sure if he's going to be like a traditional hand in the dirt tight end, but he's a guy that's got a really big frame and has good hands and has that ability to go up and catch a football above his head and things like that. So there's some intriguing traits there with Scotty Washington that maybe we get to see down the line a little bit more. And in terms of Sokol, look, he's a practice squad tight end in my mind.
Yeah, completely.
And he's just kind of a solid guy to have around. He knows the system. He knows the facility. He's been around a couple years now, and he's kind of a reliable guy to mix in there when they need some reps. Guys like Henry and Gesicki taking a blow.
Well, he had the maximum elevation last season. I think they elevated him from the practice squad the most amount of time. So yeah, you can tell that he's, like you said, the practice squad, but he's a sturdy piece that you kind of feel like you want them to maybe keep hold of for those times that it's necessary, that kind of thing. The familiarity as well. So sorry, Murph, you go. I've done tight end now. I've asked my multiple questions.
Yesterday was your first chance to get a look at Gonzalez. How well did he fit in with the group? What did you think of his first day in a Patriots helmet?
And how much did you lose it?
We're getting closer and closer to having the whole secondary together out on the field at once to try to see how these puzzle pieces are going to fit together. I think that's the biggest thing this time of year, is that you're looking at different groupings, different pairings, combinations, and just seeing how it looks out on the field. And until you get everybody out there, it's difficult to assess that. Okay, well, Gonzalez isn't here this week. Marcus Jones isn't here yesterday. So, like, how is this all going to fit together? I think the biggest thing with Gonzalez is that he was right out there plug and play as the outside corner with Jonathan Jones, and with really more like Jalen Mills and some of the safeties playing the slot yesterday, where they were kind of pretty safety heavy. I think just because of the way that the offense was playing a lot of two tight end because all the receivers weren't there. So they played a lot of two tight end offensively. So they were matching that package with more of that big nickel, that three safety nickel that they like to play. So I think those two guys, Gonzalez and Jonathan Jones, are pretty cemented in starting roles. And then it's really going to be the other Joneses and maybe Miles Bryant, who are in the competition for the third cornerback spot come September. But you can really see the athleticism, the explosiveness, the movements, even just in drills against air, just his transitions and his ability to just kind of plant and go and change directions is really impressive. But there weren't a ton of downfield targets yesterday to get all jazzed up about some interception or pass breakup or something like that he had. But in terms of the movement past the eye test, it's good that a lot of these rookies, Gonzalez included yesterday, but Keon White, Marty Mapu's been everywhere. Like that guy has just been absolutely everywhere. And even some of the rookie offensive linemen yesterday starting to get some run. Antonio Maffei, Jake Andrews, City Sal's been playing right tackle a lot of the time in these practices. So a lot of these guys are involved, which I think is a good sign, not only because the Patriots need to turn over the roster a little bit and get a little bit younger and give those guys opportunities, but it also shows that they're picking up what the coaches are putting down and they're able to digest some of the information that's getting thrown at them and giving them that ability to get out there and practice and do it in a little bit of a live setting at least.
Could you get a peek at all at how the Patriots are going to be handling the loss of Devin McCourty?
Yeah, it's like they're throwing the kitchen sink at it, Murph. Like, it's by committee. It's not. I think that's the biggest thing, is that it's not going to just be one person that's going to replace Devin McCourty. Like, I don't think we're going to get in season and be like, oh, well, like Kyle Duggar is the free safety and he's just playing like Devin McCourty and that's that. They're really going to mix and match back there. Jalen Mills, like I mentioned, playing more toward a safety position right now than a cornerback position. Duggar, Phillips, Peppers, even Josh Bledsoe getting some reps back there. So they're going to be really multiple. And I think that's the one thing that they're hoping is going to come to fruition without Devin. Is they have a lot of the same type of guys, same body types, those thicker, well-built safeties. And maybe that allows them to be a little bit more unpredictable and just spin the dial on quarterbacks and be a little bit more flexible in who's going to end up where after the ball is snapped. So still a work in progress. Like, we'll see what happens once it gets to truly live in training camp, because I think the biggest thing with Devin is a communication. Like, how are they going to be on the back end in terms of on their P's and Q's, and
who's the quarterback?
Yeah,
who's the quarterback of the defense now?
Yeah, I think that's going to be even bigger than maybe the physical drop off from not having Devin McCourty out there is we see so few and far between like coverage busts in New England, right? We hardly ever see guys just run free and have everybody looking at each other like what happened, like that doesn't really happen very often with the Patriots. And I think Devin was a big reason why.
I get, as you mentioned, it's against air at the moment. You've only seen a little bit, that kind of thing. But is there anything that has happened, not necessarily just a single player, but something in general that out there has just outright surprised you that's happened recently, be it a player's performance or something else?
Yeah, look, I've been super impressed with Marty Mapu. I mean, this guy is exactly what it gets me excited because he's exactly what the Patriots have been missing defensively, like a true sideline to sideline player that can go and make tackles in space and chase down guys in the flats and maybe spy some mobile quarterbacks along the way as well. And he moves at a different gear. And I think the most impressive thing, look, I'm not going to evaluate, like they're not tackling anybody. Right. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh God, this guy's going to have 150 tackles. I don't know. But I think the biggest thing is that you can tell mentally that he clicks into things really quickly. Like he sees it and he gets and goes to the football extremely fast. And that's something that you can tell from these practices. Yesterday he was playing like a middle of the field role, like a middle of the field zone. They tried to dump the ball off to the flat and he just flew to the flat, like shot out of a cannon to tackle the running back. And what I also like about him, and this is like body language stuff that we get into this time of year, he flew into the flat. And, right now it's kind of like that two-hand touch thing where you just like, I would have gotten you sort of thing. And after he did that, he like had a little swagger about it, right? Like, or he was like, yep, that was me. Like I was going to be all over that. Like that was going to be blown up in the backfield. And I don't know. I like those types of things. I think they need that little bit of attitude and that little bit of confidence. Like I'm going to be where I need to be. And I think that he's that type of guy. You watch him just go through route combinations and kind of sift through the threats. Like, all right, this guy's trying to clear me out, but this is the guy they're really trying to get the ball to, like stuff like that. And he's just on it. And I think that that's really been extremely impressive. I don't know if he's going to be ready to play all three downs yet. I think they probably view him more as like a coverage package linebacker right now, where he's going to come on the field in third downs and things like that. But I've been super impressed, and so have they, because he's been everywhere. I mean, he's played linebacker, he's played safety, he's played a ton of reps in the two practices that we've seen. So it's all good things with Marty Mapu, and I think that he's going to be a really good player for them.
Evan, I caught myself after the draft when I went to do a little more film work on Mapu. Did you catch yourself just sitting back and listening to him play? Listening to him lay lumber on people?
Yeah.
Because I did. I closed my eyes and just it's explosive the way this kid gets after a tackle.
Yeah, they just don't have a ton of guys that have done that in recent years. I think Duggar and Jabril Peppers have had moments where they've been able to kind of go and make a rangy play and finish and things like that. But I think Mapu is instinctively, he's much more naturally linebacker than he is safety. Like he plays like a linebacker in a safety's body. And those are the types of guys that have really succeeded in recent years. I think about guys like a Matt Milano in Buffalo or a Deion Jones or players like that are 225, 230. Obviously, Fred Warner's like the poster of that, and everybody compares everybody to Fred Warner. But
he's Hightower's kid brother.
Yeah, I don't like comparing people to Fred Warner because he's probably the best linebacker in football. But there's other guys like that. Milano, I think, is a good one. Who's like 220, 225. But they have the instincts and they have the feel and they have the physicality of a 240-pound linebacker. They're just doing it at 225. And I think that that's what the hope is with a guy like Mapu. And the stuff that we saw on film at Sacramento State, the sideline to sideline stuff, the running people down in space and making these crazy, streaking across the field type tackles, like that stuff is shown a little bit already in OTAs. And to do that at this level, now you know that you got something real brewing there.
It's interesting that you say Milano, because he's the one guy that in free agency that I was kind of really hoping that they'd look at. But yeah, it was a no chance. But it's interesting that it's a bit of a comparison there. Evan, on PU, you guys mentioned the punter Waitman had been doing really well. So now I'm worried about my guy Barringer. So like, I need to know, should I be concerned? Because this is my guy he's basically who I've just ended up really really just wanting to support from the draft for some strange reason, because I'm Fruit Loops. So now he's my guy now from the draft. So I need you to get me off the
sports
off the edge.
Goggles, isn't it? It's the sports goggles.
I don't know what it is. It's just everything.
Yeah. So he wasn't there yesterday. The rookie Barringer, he wasn't there. So it was the Waitman show. I think both of them, from what you can tell so far, have really, really big legs. So I think they actually punt the ball pretty similarly, to be honest with you, just in terms of their style. Some punters,
I'm worried.
some punters are going to be, the control guys, right? That are going to pin it, drop it on a dime at the 2-yard line, but they're not necessarily going to flip the field in terms of field position and things like that. But they're good directional punters and situational punters. And then there's guys like Waitman and Barringer who, they could be standing on their own 20-yard line and they end up, flipping it to the other 20-yard line. And those are the types of things that you look at as a positive as well. So I said on PU yesterday, I still am not blown away by either of these guys. And I referenced Jake Bailey's rookie training camp in OTA, where Matthew Slater was like in awe of the punts. Like these punts, like with Jake Bailey, like we're like touching the clouds, right? Like he was just absolutely booming the ball. And I don't think that we've seen that quite yet from these two guys. But I'm intrigued by both of their ability to really boom the football. And you can hear that pop off the foot and things like that. So we'll see. It's going to be a nice competition between those two. I think it's going to be a good competition at both spots, but Ryland's draft status, being a 4th round pick, it's hard to envision them cutting a 4th round pick. So I think that he's probably going to make the team and be the kicker, unless he's just completely a bust, right? Unless he's just terrible. But in terms of Barringer, 6th round pick against a guy like Waitman, who's punted a little bit in the NFL, it's theoretically possible. And you're not really that it's easier to stomach, I guess, to move on from a 6th round pick that you drafted at the end of the draft and somebody that you prioritized in the 4th round.
This is how invested I am. You and Alex talked about his hang times on Catch 22, and I have them. I made a note of them. Like I'm so invested in this guy. I'm so invested.
Mark would really appreciate that. He tries really hard with those hang times. He wanted to do operation time too, but that's
wow.
that got
You're
too
killing me, Smalls.
Yeah. The snap to hold time, right? For the people that don't know what operation time is, and
me and Alex need a conversation.
It's okay. Yeah, look, I hang times is fine. I'm okay with that.
Right.
All that track completion percentage in OTA practices, though, and I'm not trying to pick on anybody in particular, any of my colleagues, but we really need to, as a football beat, we need to do better than being like, oh, well, Mac Jones was 10 for 11 today in OT. Like he's throwing against like half speed, like jog through pace guys. Like we're not live by any means yet. So if he's not completing every pass when the defensive backs are allowing him to complete the vast majority of them just so that they can run the drill, then we got bigger problems.
I'm still keeping it.
Yeah, you should. You should get that tattooed somewhere, Claire. You honestly should.
That's way too far.
But we all know that Ramondre Stevenson is the number 1 back in town now. There's no debate whatsoever. I'm on record as being crestfallen, heartbroken that Bill didn't go out and get me Deuce Vaughn in this draft. I wanted Deuce Vaughn more than I wanted just about anything in life. Is Pierre Strong the 3rd down back? Is he the pass catching back? Is he the guy that O'Brien's going to use in space to excuse me, really mix up defenses and keep them on their toes?
Look, I hope so. And I think a guy like Pierre Strong is in a position where they absolutely need to give him the volume of reps in training camp and see if he runs with it. no pun intended. But I think the biggest thing is like, he's the guy that you drafted in the 4th round. He's the guy that you invested a high pick on last year. And he's the guy that you expected to take over for Damian Harris. Like, this is why you drafted him.
Right.
Was knowing that Damian Harris was in a contract year. You probably weren't going to give him a second contract. And now it's time for these younger guys to step up and get the opportunities. So I hope that they give him all the opportunities in the world to be that guy. I still think they really like Ty Montgomery, though. And Montgomery, he's not as explosive as Pierre Strong. He's not as dynamic as Pierre Strong, but he's reliable. Like, that guy, for say what you will about him.
He's a nice, reliable K car.
He's in the right spots all the time. Like, when he comes out of the backfield, he gets his spot, he catches the football, and he turns upfield, and he's going to get you 8 yards. Like, that's just the way that he's going to operate. I think, with him, he's a little bit more versatile than some of the other 3rd down guys or pass catching guys they've had too, because he has that wide receiver background. He's played wide receiver in the past, so he can flex out. He can play out wide in the slot, in the backfield. So I think they like his versatility. He's not the athlete that Pierre Strong is. He's just not, but he's a heady veteran who's got some versatility, who's got some experience. So I still think that Pierre Strong has his word cut out for him to beat out Ty Montgomery for that 3rd down back role. But that's who I want to be there. Like, that's the guy that I really want to see. And I think between him and Tyquan Thornton, they both present a lot of speed to this offense that didn't necessarily exist last year or 2 years ago. Those guys have game-breaking potential, and we've seen it in flashes. So they need that, whether it's just getting Pierre Strong on the field for 5 snaps a game just to throw him a screen or to swing him out of the backfield and try to get him on a linebacker or get him into space, whatever. Like, it just get him the ball a couple times a game and see if he can break one.
Fantastic.
And we're going to get to a couple of chat questions in a second. But before anybody steals this one, I want to ask you, there was mentions in regards to a reduction of minicamp. Other teams have reduced their minicamp and things like that. Does the possible reduction of like OTA's minicamp, I know they haven't actually come out and said anything yet, so just the possibility, does the reduction concern you in any way on the conditioning standpoint of the players and such?
It doesn't concern me big time, but I just, and Murph, I'm sure you're going to love this. Like, I'm sick and tired of coddling these guys. I just, like, oh, like we don't go out to mini camp anymore. Like, what? Like, what are we doing? Like, this is professional football. Mandatory mini camp, I think, is an important part for a couple of reasons. One, it's mandatory. So I think that's the one time where, look, as far as I'm concerned, Matthew Judon can show up week 1 against Philadelphia. Like, I don't need to see Matthew Judon until the real games start in September. But it's still a good thing to get him out there with the rest of the team and get him involved and have his energy at practice and things like that. But I think the main thing is that it's a dress rehearsal. You go through a full day, a 10-hour day, which is exactly what you're going to go through in training camp, and you get into a little bit of a rhythm with it. And I really believe that the best teams, they hit the ground running in these situations where when you get to training camp, it's not we're still looking at each other like not knowing what to do, or we're still pointing fingers, or guys are still lining up incorrectly. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that in August. And I think the more that you get rid of these spring practices, the more that August essentially just becomes OTAs, right? And then September becomes the preseason, and now we're really not playing good football until October and November. And I just hate to see that. So I want to see guys out there. I understand there's another side to it. And I think this generation, my generation, unfortunately, has a little bit of like, they do need those pats on the back, right? Like, oh, like you did a good job at OTAs. Like, I'll see you in August, right? Like, I think that there's something to be said for that a little bit, but I would much rather see guys out there. And I think that Bill's still old school enough that we're going to see the Patriots stick with minicamp until he's gone.
There you go.
Good. A little appreciation does go a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not making a point there at all.
No. I'll use it, me as an example. I get, it's my job to go out there to OTA in mini camp practices, right? That I get paid to do that. So I'm there, like, like that's voluntary, not voluntary, whatever. Like all of us are there. And I'm not saying that like, that's like, oh, you should be there because I'm there. I'm just saying that's life, right? Like it's life everybody has a job. Yep. And everybody's got to show up for their job, and everybody's got to be on time for their job, and so on and so forth. So let's stop babying these guys. They're getting paid enough. Go play football.
Coddled millennial bastards. Go ahead, Claire. Bring it up.
On that note, Joel asks, do you think Bill will change how he approaches special teams this year, specifically on kickoffs?
Nope, and no.
Okay, moving on.
We've gotten this question a lot, and I think the biggest thing is and look, I get it, but I'm going to take another shot because I'm I'm in a shoddy mood today. Apparently, I think that this is being driven by a certain sect of the media that kickoffs now are irrelevant because of this new rule, and that's trickling down into the fans thinking of, well, why do we need Matthew Slater and why do we need this guy and that guy? They're still going to kick off every week, right? Like that is still going to be a part of the game, and I'm not fully convinced that fair catches are going to go up exponentially because of this new rule. Let's see. Like we'll see what it looks like, but I still think that fair catches are going to be within 5% of what they have been in the last couple of years, even with this new rule. So in Bill's mind, I think you look at it and you say you still have to cover the kick. Like even if they don't return the kick, the option is still there to return it. So if we just start sending out, Joe Schmo, like they're going to just return it on us, right? So you still have to return kicks. Punts are exactly the same. Nothing has changed about punts. In all the other phases, block and all that type of stuff hasn't changed at all. So I'm still not ready to say that anything is going to change dramatically with special teams until we see returners consistently fair catching the football under this new rule and having it really start to be phased out. Until that happens, the Patriots are not changing their approach.
Mm-hmm. We've had a question from Chris Goodwin. How is the O-line looking? Do we have confidence yet these guys are going to protect our QB1?
So again, like kind of like the blocking tight end question, I don't really evaluate blocking at this time of year.
Around or fighting.
That's all right now, it's mainly just who's where. And I think the biggest thing is that you have seen, Trent Brown hasn't been at these voluntary practices. So Calvin Anderson's been playing left tackle. Riley Reif has been playing right tackle. And then Strange and Andrews have been in their spots that you would expect them to be in. And then right guard, Onwenu is recovering from that surgery that Reese reported on. So that's been a little bit of a mixture. Bill Murray, James Ferentz. We did see Mafi there a little bit yesterday, which was a good sign. So we saw a lot of mixing and matching so far and guys rotating in at the moment. But tackle is still a major concern for me. And I think that there is something to be said that a good offensive coordinator like Bill O'Brien can scheme around having poor tackle play. They'll hit misdirection. They'll get the ball out quickly. They'll have hopefully a sturdy interior pocket to have good depth of the pocket so that Mac Jones can step up and let those guys run by. But at the end of the day, it is a one-on-one sport, right? Mm-hmm. And those tackles, when they play, Philly week 1, they're going to have Hassan Reddick coming off one side and they're going to have guys that are going to be problems, right? Like, Von Miller is going to be back for Buffalo at some point. The guys in Miami, Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb, eventually those tackles got to block people. Like that's the job. So I still have some concerns about the tackles, and I'm interested to see who's exactly there and what they have there out of some of these guys. Like maybe Calvin Anderson, who's really a career swing tackle guy, is better than that. Maybe he is taking that next step into a starting role, and maybe Riley Reif does have something left in the tank, at 34. But it's a spot that I look at that I wish was a little bit more stable for this team, because I do think even though their pass catchers aren't elite, I do think that they have enough to throw the ball and be effective through the air. The question really is going to come down to, can they protect?
Yeah, completely. On the expansion of that, obviously, as you said, you can't really evaluate much at this point. Have you seen anything, though, of the new offensive line coach in Adrian Clem? Have you seen involvement from him? Have you got a good vibe going there, that sort of thing?
Brilliant question.
Yeah, I think Adrian Clem's been really hands-on from what I have seen, and correcting guys, and right after plays, like a lot of guys have gone over to him and talked to him, and talked through things with him, and things like that. And I think that's going to be a really important relationship. I'm doing a piece on Dante Scarnecchia for the Game Day magazine, and just talking to a lot of people for that piece, they were just saying how important that relationship from Dante to Weiss or McDaniels or O'Brien when he was here, and also just the other position coaches on offense, because the offensive line has to work with everybody. They got to work with the running backs. They got to work with the tight ends. They got to work with the quarterbacks. Like, so that position is all encompassing. And the Patriots have always leaned heavily on the offensive line coach, where the coordinator usually comes in and says, here's the runs that we want to use. Here's the routes and the passing combinations that we want to use this week. Get it blocked, right? Like, figure it out. And if that's going to continue to be the theme, is that the offensive line coach is going to take on all those game plan responsibilities, and Adrian Clem's got a lot on his plate. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But so far, so good. I think that he's maybe a little bit quieter and like less demonstrative than like a Dante Scarnecchia. Scar, you knew that Scar was at practice, right? Like, you could hear him, you could see him. I would say that Adrian Clem is a little bit more laid back than that, but so far so good.
Cool. I just really it's like you just feel like we need to know that, because it was such a shit show last year. It's just we just want that confidence of it's going well, isn't it, Evan? Tell me it's going okay, kind of thing.
I think the biggest thing about last year too, other than Matt Patricia being put in a position that he had no business being in, was the amount of responsibility that was on his plate. Like, he was the offensive coordinator, the offensive line coach. Like, he was doing too many things, and he was stretched way too thin. And we could tell right out of the gate in the preseason that he was stretched too thin, because he didn't know where to go. Like, he was on the sideline, and like sometimes he was up in the booth, and then sometimes he was on the sideline, and sometimes Billy Yates was with him, and sometimes he wasn't. And you have like guys like David Andrews and James Ferentz basically coaching the group on the sideline, because the coach is with the quarterback, and it was just a mess. It was not a well-oiled machine by any stretch of the imagination. So just having guys that have had those jobs in the past and have a specific job, where it's Adrian Clem, you're coaching the line, Will Lawing, you're coaching the tight ends. Like, there's no blurred lines anymore with guys wearing multiple hats. And I think that's going to be a big thing for them as well.
Is city so? It's so, people, not sow. It's so. We were corrected by Phil A. Perry a week ago.
It's really?
Yeah.
That's what Phil told us last time he was on.
Weeks ago
Phil's good with the name, so I got to take his word for it.
Yep, it is not sow. It is so. We were talking about versatility. Did you see him lining up in different positions?
He's been a tackle for the two practices that we have seen. Obviously, he might be playing some guard when we're not there as well, but he's mainly been at tackle. I'm not totally sold on him as a tackle yet. I can see some of the comparisons to like a Marcus Cannon, who was like a thicker, stouter tackle that almost was built like a guard, but had the foot speed to play tackle. I just think with or let's go with I guess, Phil. The biggest concern that I have with him at tackle is mainly that ability to really get out of his stance and have the range to cut off the corner. Yesterday, Josh Uche turned the corner on him. And so it's talking about Adrian Clem, kind of looked at Adrian Clem and Billy Yates, and both of those guys just shrugged and were like, welcome to the NFL, dude. It was like one of those moments where was just like, holy crap, did you see that first step? Like, that was ridiculous.
What the hell was that?
Yeah, and they're like, that's 10.5 sacks right there at Josh Uche. So those are the guys that he's going to have to block out there, and I'm not fully convinced that he's got that ability yet, but we'll see. I think he's got a powerful frame. I think he has the length for it, and he's got some athleticism. He's got some intriguing tools, but I would look at him as a guy that's likely like a swing backup type for the first couple years, where he could play some guard, could play some tackle, and then we'll see where it goes.
All right, one last question before I get you out of here, bud. A lot of people are talking about how crowded the wide receiver room is. Is there anybody that you think could be a cap casualty with these young wide receivers that are currently in camp?
Yeah, I find this question funny too, because the Patriots have had a lot of shortcomings, let's face it, at wide receiver over the last couple years, and now everybody wants to cut one of them. Like, I'm just not really sure if the Patriots are in a position to be cutting veteran receivers for rookies. Like, they just don't have. If they had like a Stephon Diggs or a Tyreek Hill, and they're just kind of filling out behind a superstar receiver like that, it'd be one thing. But they want to win currently with depth. Like, they're looking to win with spreading the ball around. And okay, 1 week it might be Devontae Parker, the next week it might be Juju, the next week it might be Kendrick Bourne. Like, that's sort of the approach that they're going to have to take without having that number one guy at the moment. So I'm not ready to cut anybody or trade anybody from that room. And it's really, really, really early. And I think Belichick said yesterday that the rookies right now are like drinking through a fire hose, right? Like, it's just coming at them and there's a ton of information. But I haven't really seen Kayshon Boutte or Demario Douglas truly pop yet in either of these practices. And maybe that will come down the line for both of those guys. Boutte got an earful yesterday for lining up in the wrong spot from the coaches. And that's sort of what's going on. I think Douglas has shown a little bit of flash, just not necessarily down the field, but on little dump offs and things like that near the line of scrimmage, playing out of the slot, coming in motion. I wonder if he's the type of guy that maybe down the line they look at out of the backfield a little bit more. He's small. So
yeah,
I'm not sure if he's going to be like a true down the field receiver in the NFL, but like kind of like a Ty Montgomery type with a little bit more juice because he's got those younger legs. I wonder if he's someone that they do look at in that type of role down the line. But I wish we saw, and people have asked me on Twitter, like, tell us about the rookie. I wish I could tell you more. Like, I wish that they were doing more right now currently, but I don't want to overreact to it and drag the guys either, because obviously it's really early. I'm sure both of those guys are just trying to stay above water at the moment. And especially with such a complex playbook that Bill O'Brien brings to the table, side adjustments and coverage rotations and things like all this type of stuff that you have to like learn as a young receiver in that system is difficult. But I haven't seen anything to be like, oh, Kayshon Boutte is going to push Kendrick Bourne off the roster. We're still ways away from that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that answer more than you could possibly know.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Oh.
Evan, thank you very much. This is like, we know that Evan has got a serious schedule, courtesy of Bill Belichick. So we're giving Evan a hard out now. So Evan, thank you so much for your time and coming back onto One Patriots Place. Everybody can find him at patriots.com. I mean, everybody knows where this guy is because he is amazing. So check out all of his work on patriots.com.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Thanks a lot,
Evan.
bud.
Take care.
We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Evan Lazar, Patriots.com, folks. Oh, man. That was fun. That was fun.
It's always fun with Evan.
I'll take 45 minutes of Evan Lazar answering our questions than just about anything else. Lee made
really just about anything else.
Just about anything else. Okay. That's how much I like.
Now all of our other guests are really upset now, Murph, because you've just said that.
Well, I mean, you like to see. For those of you that don't know, I discovered Evan Lazar. He was living under a freeway overpass in Los Angeles, working for NFL Network, and he was one of our first early guests that nobody knew, and now as Claire said, everybody knows, and everybody knows where to find him, and it's just all due to his hard work and just excellent football mind. It really is. So if you're not out there following him, go jump in on that.
Completely.
All right. So Claire,
Murph,
are you happy with what Evan had to say about the tight end room and how he feels that definitely going to keep 3 this season?
Oh, dude, I am lapping it up. Like I said, when I asked him the question, the whole Giseki and Hunter and BFFs is like, oh, it's like just, oh, I just want to eat it all up. It's amazing. I cannot wait to see this season. As everybody knows who is listening to this, I'm a Titan enthusiast. And the fact that we might sort of get some serious Titan and everybody else is kind of enthused as well. That's the thing that's fun for me, is it's a position that I love, whether it's kind of the glass is full or barely even got a drop in it. I'm still excited because I love me some Titans. The thing that is kind of cool for me as a fan this year is everybody else is quite excited as well, because everybody else is looking forward. Well, not everybody else, but people are looking forward to see how Giseki fits in and hoping that Hunter, does well and connects with Mac again and stuff like that. So it's nice to have kind of everybody else on board. And there's loads of, I got distracted because there's loads of chat things now you've mentioned Titans. So I'm just going to throw this in, just going back a second. Chris says, vote Murph. Oh, sorry. Joel says, vote Murph 2024 for Finding Easy. Joel, really? Do you need to big up this man's ego anymore? Do you realize how huge his ego is? I have to try and deal with it when I work with him. Oh, Chris says that I'm still his favorite. That's so nice. Thank you so much, Chris. It's nice to be somebody's favorite.
We know. We all know. Everybody loves Clare.
However, he is then asked, do we really need 3 Titans? Yes. How dare you ask this? You should know this answer. And now, maybe my favorite comment is Lee Noons. No, we need 4. Thank you, Lee. Mwah. So nice of you to say that.
Somebody will be on the practice squad for you and Claire to go and scout every single week. We don't need 4.
Only.
We need 3, but we definitely need 3 because
we do need 3. We do need 3 on the roster and at least 2 on the practice squads.
Right.
Technically 5. Technically.
Honestly,
they technically need 5 Titans,
5.
all in all.
Okay. 5.
Oh, and they want to know who's on your. Lee wants to know who's on your jersey.
4.
Murph.
4. I'm wearing my Edelman jersey today.
Oh, sweet. Very nice. Very nice. And I keep throwing things up there.
Yeah,
they need 5.
No, need 7. 7.
Oh my God! Yes, they need 7.
Claire, 7.
That's it.
I was, it's really difficult to judge an offensive line during OTAs, and it's just, basically folks, go line up there, and go line up there.
We're just desperate to knowledge, though, aren't we? We're starved now, and these are breadcrumbs, so you can't help but run away with the questions of, well, did you see this? Are they doing that kind of thing? So it's easy to fall into the trap of, how's the O-line looking and how's the blocking? And it's like, they can't do that yet. And it's like, oh yeah, I know that, but I still can't help myself, kind of thing.
We didn't even talk about the fight yet. Did you hear about the fight?
See, I don't know all the details. That's why I didn't ask. I assumed you might do, because you've always got your finger on the pulse. I missed most of the information and haven't caught up yet today because, as you know, I've been super busy this morning. So yeah, school us in, Murph, man.
Yeah, evidently yesterday, there was a little bit of a scuffle between Cole Strange and the defensive line, and Christian Barmore, who decided to jump in there late. The talk is, around here that it's Bush League. It's not something that a good football. That's garbage. All right. Even in non-hitting situations, speaking as an offensive lineman, we don't like you. We don't like you. You line up against us. We don't like you. We don't hang out with you. We don't want to go out for beer afterwards. We don't want to snuggle up on the couch and watch a chick flick with some popcorn in between.
This is what happens when we have to let a guest out early. This is what we end up with, folks. Really. The one thing that I would like to say about the scuffle, as Joel likes to throw in about it, is, you know what, the thing that I took from it that I really like, though? I know that there's a massive controversy about Cole Strange being that first round pick. I get it, folks. I really do. However, that guy has got so much heart for the game. He is ready to be in there. That kid is always in someone's face if he's defending somebody. I tell you, he's definitely somebody I would want in my corner. I want the guy that will jump over somebody and be in the face of somebody else, to be in my corner and, have my back and stuff like that. So what I genuinely will say on the record, I'm loving Cole Strange. I quite liked him before,
Yeah.
to be honest. I never had much of an issue, but I just love the way that he will. And David Andrews has got the very, very similar mentality, and I guess it's a bonding thing as well. But Andrews is very much like, you don't mess with my quarterback. He's in people's faces.
Yep.
And I love that Cole Strange has he either naturally has got that, he's absorbed some of it from Andrews, whichever. I'm not taking anything away from him because it could be his natural ability. I love that in a football player. How can you not want to see that? And that's kind of how it ends up with these scuffles type thing.
Yeah, it's something to me that just shows the competitive nature of these guys and what they're doing. And if you're sitting there lined up as an offensive lineman and somebody is just gets it, we don't like it, and we're going to get back in your face over it. And I'm right there with Claire. I love this kind of competitive fire, and I can't wait to see more. I really can't.
When you an offensive lineman, Murph? Oh, he's gone. Oh no. He left
No,
me
I'm
alone.
not
Oh no,
gone.
he's there. Okay.
No, not gone.
Then there was a moment of, what
Yep.
do I talk about now with
No,
myself?
that was
I'm not sure.
somebody
That's fine.
walking through the shot who didn't want to walk through the shot, and was
That's
just
fair enough. I
sitting.
gotta
Yeah.
say, when I kind of put to Buddy, can I have a cardboard cutout of myself instead, or just a blank screen? And it was a no. Yeah, I tried. I just wanted just my name printed across, and that's all
Yeah.
you guys need to see. Which really we'd probably get more views if that's how we ended up.
Well,
Really, to be honest,
poor Murph.
our views would have gone up if you didn't have to deal with this. But anyway,
If you didn't get enough of me today, Locked On Patriots had me on yesterday. Go check that out on YouTube too. But I don't
Locked On
know how.
Patriots has you on at least twice a week, Murph. We all know this. They're all Locked On Patriots people. We all know that you're on there all the time, type thing. You're everywhere, all the time, unmissable completely.
I'm beloved.
Yes, we know. Apparently you've told me many,
I'm
many
very popular
times.
in small doses. It's when you have to deal with me as often as Claire does that you get that face. It's Claire. We call it resting Claire face. She only makes it when I'm in the room. Going back, it's so difficult to judge anything that's going on during OTAs. But one thing that just from what I saw, it was fantastic to see Mac Jones happy on a football field again. It looked like he was really enjoying himself during this. Last year that didn't happen. He kind of had the rug pulled out from underneath him, and he quite frankly, I don't think he handled it perfectly. But I mean, what 22-year-old does?
Exactly? Yeah, I mean, you throw somebody in a mix of, you change their offensive guy, your coach and everything. This is this kid's career. This is what marks the rest of his life and stuff like that. And yeah, it shows some immaturity that maybe he didn't deal with it great, but he also was in a really crappy situation. A lot of people were in a really crappy situation, in all fairness, and there's a lot of blame to go around and stuff like that.
But most of the blame always goes on the quarterback when things don't go right. And
he'd only had 1 year in the system. He'd had 1 year to be, the leader, the face of the team and stuff like that. And his first year he did, as much as people won't agree with me, I think he did pretty darn good for a rookie for his first year. It was just it was really unfortunate that so many things kind of went against. It'd be interesting if anybody out there could invent a time machine and we could go back and I mean, there's lots of things that we do, obviously, but we could go back and see what Mac Jones year 2 would be without the kind of mess that was Matty P at doing 2 jobs and all that sort of thing. It'd be interesting to see if Bill O'Brien could have come in that year earlier, and if they had even actually got an offensive line coach, or maybe even Matty P doing the O-line. But if he only had to do the O-line, maybe he'd have been more successful.
True.
You don't know. This is ifs and buts and candidates and stuff like that. But yeah, he probably wouldn't. But you got to give him the benefit of the doubt on that matter. So what would we be saying year 3? Oh, Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future, or yeah, they need to draft one, or we'll never know because you can't do that. So I feel it's so harsh when people judge so significantly when that year was just, yeah. There's a new rule. Murph's guests need to wave at the camera, Murph. I don't know if they'd be happy with that, Chris.
Oh, that's just Butchie walking through, and he's just, Butchie's shy. He's a shy guy.
And I hate this. I'm going to share it, but I genuinely might debate should rename the show Locked on Murph. Yeah, because his ego needs a show named after him.
Chris,
really,
don't float that out on Twitter or anything, please. I love working with Mike. He's anytime he calls, I'm happy to go on the show and fill up 15 minutes. I just wish that we had more time to do things like that. Just like I wish we had more time with Claire every week. Claire gets her little turn going away. One more thing I wanted to touch on today that we haven't had a chance to do is no, actually we did have a chance. We did talk about Antonio May. So that's it. I'm out. I'm out of here.
What? I missed what you said. I had to mute myself and cough. What did you say?
I said I think we touched on just about everything we wanted to today in 45 minutes. A little bit rushed, but yeah. How about Locked On Cooper? Ooh, we like that. So
I'm not even on every week now. I'm on most weeks, but not every single week. So there's definitely more Murph out there than there is than me. So that wouldn't work.
Any of you guys out there have any more questions for us today?
There's some people tapping in thinking, oh my God, what is going on? What are these pairs just jibber jabbering about Locked On and things like this? I'm sure most people watch it, but they're probably thinking
it is. It's just so hard to get a feel for anything that's going on, except maybe possibly, like I said, where people are lining up, who's getting yelled at for lining up incorrectly. As Bill likes to say, this is a teaching camp. Okay, this is getting everybody on the same page, and it's just really nice to see that that this year it's looking much easier to get on the same page than it was a year ago. Would you want to say, Claire?
We have a question. I was going to say, I can't remember what I was going to say, but we have a question. What are you looking forward to next, Patriots wise?
Probably getting padded up and hitting. Right now, part of the reason for the scuffle yesterday, the kerfuffle yesterday, was the fact that otherwise we don't get to hit anybody. And I'm talking about the big, round, ugly guys up front like me. We're out here.
Hey, they're not all ugly.
Getting in shape. Going through everything that all the skill player guys are doing, and we don't get to do anything. We just get to stand there and walk through. There's no contact, there's no hitting, and you get frustrated because the guy across from you has really, really bad breath, and you start swinging. So yeah,
that isn't where I thought you were going when you were going to say that. I thought you were going to say he's really handsome or something like that. I'm just really excited in general. The one thing I know I was going to say, and this kind of ties back into this anyway, was I'm just getting a little bit frustrated for people who are still really negative and really down on the team. Like you said, we don't really know necessarily what we've got. We can only see bits and pieces. We can't see blocking, hitting, all that kind of thing. So you're not certain what you've got anyway. So granted, you could also flip that into a negative and say, well, we're not certain what we've got. Yeah, but there's the anticipation. Wait and see. This team could be really good. Let's give them a chance to be really good before we've already said that they're not, before we've already said Mac Jones isn't going to have a great year, that there should be competition between him and Zappy and that kind of thing. Let's just give them all a chance kind of thing. I am just really excited to see just the team. I know that's not till September and August if preseason, but I'm just really excited to see them all work together. The Hunter and the Gesicki and the Mac and the O-line. That's the only thing that concerns me is the O-line strong enough still? And like you said, we won't know because they're not hitting. But that's the only concern I've got. It's interesting to see these new defensive guys. How can they strengthen the defense even more? There's so much that you're like, could be possibly excited about. that it's like, why be down on it? Why just at least hit me up after the first 4 games, and then I'll let you know whether I kind of feel like it's okay to be down on them.
There you
Kind
go.
of, not that anybody needs my permission. Obviously, you get what I'm saying, tongue in cheek and stuff like this.
Yep.
But it's like let's just give it a bit of a chance before we sort of put them out with
I
trash
gotcha.
kind of thing. I'm just
I
very
gotcha.
excited about Gesicki, and I hope they keep Barringer or Barringer, whatever. I can't
Yep.
wait to see Gesicki suit up as a Patriot. What? Wait, oh, I cannot wait for this. Oh, it's so exciting, folks.
Are you going to
All
get a
these new
jersey?
guys, all this fun.
Gonna
I
get you a
would,
jersey?
but I'm really concerned that if I do, then he'll end up getting injured. I don't want to be the curse of the jersey.
The only
So
thing I don't
no.
like about Mike Gesicki being on this team is it's a 1-year deal. I wish Bill had at least inked him up for 2 years, and that's really
There's still
upsetting.
time. There's still
Yeah.
time.
Oh yeah.
I love how he uses his length, contested catches and stuff like this.
Yep.
I can't wait to see these, these mini skirmishes and things as you want to, just the fun back into it, because I feel
Right.
like we've kind of been deprived. And I know everybody hates Izzo and stuff like this, but I still thought he was a decent blocker and didn't get much of a chance and stuff like this.
One last one. Joel has a good
Okay.
question up here. How are the Patriots going to keep up with the crossing routes this year? With this never-ending
He means
plethora.
defense. I am speaking
Yeah.
defensively. Did you
Right.
see that bit as well? Okay,
Yep,
sorry.
I did. With the depth that they have at both cornerback and safety positions,
Mhm.
you're going to go, Joel. We're going to see more of the amoeba type defensive backfield than we did last year, and quite frankly, it's going to confuse and confuddle most quarterbacks, especially the ones in the AFC East that the Patriots definitely need to beat. These guys are going to, you watch, man, these kids are going to be picking off a lot of balls on those crossing routes that we have. And also just, everybody on that side of the ball being a bit more familiar with where they have to
Mhm.
be and what they have to
Yeah.
do. There was a lot of youth on that side of the ball last year. It's still young, of course, but I think 1 year into it, that's fantastic.
Mm.
All right, that's a wrap, folks. Claire, take us out.
No, I had one quick question for
Oh,
you before we do. Other than the divisional rivals, because I know that the division isn't looking very easy this season, to be honest, what has you most concerned? And I don't necessarily mean an opponent, maybe just a game, but what going into the season? I know I'm trying to keep it actually positive, but the one thing that I find interesting about that schedule is what has you most concerned? Is it like the whole thing? Is it definitely
no,
just the division, or is it, anything else?
it's the gauntlet at the beginning of the season, and
Yeah.
this team may be starting out 1-3
Mm.
and wondering, how they're going to have to fight back all year long, because there's a really good chance that happens, folks. Now, I've gone on record saying that I think that this is an 11-6 team, and I still think that they will be. I'm not going to back off of that. With
I
the
have a
new coach.
sandwich bet on that. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you, but with my lovely assistant on a Clare perspective, also was my co-host once, Chudders from Manchester. Guys who that do listen to ACP will know him. We had on the last episode, we had like a sandwich prop bet kind of thing, a sandwich bet, and I ended up in the situation. I found myself cornered into the situation of saying how many wins and losses I think, and we ended up at 10 is the line. So if the Patriots win more than 10, he has to buy me the sandwich. But if they don't, obviously, if it's 10, it's a line, it's a draw. So if it's 9 or less, then I owe him a sandwich.
Okay,
So
here we
yeah,
go.
folks,
And I
don't
want
miss that
everybody
ACP.
and I
Go and
want
listen to that
everybody to
episode.
type into the chat room and answer this question. What's your go-to sandwich?
Oh, your go-to sandwich,
Yeah.
and everybody's left to eat dinner. There's now just me and Murph, folks.
Okay.
Everybody left it. What's your go-to sandwich then, Murph?
Mine is just I'm a ham and cheese on rye guy.
Yeah, but if someone had to buy you a sandwich, wouldn't you go a little bit more
No.
up to? No,
No.
okay.
Nope.
Oh, Joel says Italian.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm not quite. Yeah. Oh,
Chris corned
Chris's.
beef.
Yeah, Chris's is corned beef sandwich or toasted cheese. Okay. Oh, Lee also has a vote for Italian as well.
All right.
So yeah, that's a popular one.
There you go.
I don't know. I'm persnickety. It depends what mood I'm in as to what my go-to sandwich is and what's available and stuff like this. If I could just one out of thin air, it'd probably something like roast beef on a baguette type thing going on.
Okay.
That sort of
I can
that sort
respect
of
that.
jam, that sort of vibe. But I do love me a Thanksgiving sandwich, which is like turkey stuffing, cranberry
Ooh.
sauce.
Oh, I want to change my answer. Oh,
Did I just beat you at the sandwich
yes,
game?
you did. You just kicked my entire ass on that. Oh
Just
yeah.
like that.
The Thanksgiving sandwich with turkey and some cranberry and get a
Yeah,
little stuffing in there.
stuffing.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. There you go.
Followed
That's
by
perfect.
if there's still leftover, followed by a little bit of sneaky pie that was left over.
All right.
You
Go to
can't.
pizza is both meatball and pepperoni on the same pie from Jerry's Pizza in Middletown,
Wow.
Connecticut.
Okay,
That's it.
and before we do any more unsolicited promotions of locations, folks, because pizza's available at a lot of places. Don't just take it to a friend. Right, that's as we said, that's another episode of One Patriots Place,
There you
brought
go.
to you by the E2G Sports Network. Please do not forget, folks, to rate, review, and subscribe. So tune in next time for me, Clare Cooper, him, Thomas Murphy. As I said, tune in next time, folks. Go Pats.